Yes, that's right. It's Joe here, live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q and A. And yeah, we're going to launch in straight away with our lead topic. Just adjusting the custom shirt there. Yeah, the lead topic, which is how much purchase do you need on your main sheet? Now, when we're talking about purchase, what we're talking about is how many pulleys or sheaves in a block does the rope go round. And if we start off at our most basic level, the more pulleys the rope goes round, the more mechanical advantage we have, which makes it easier to pull the sail in from there to there. Okay, so that is the absolute fundamentals of purchase systems. Now, so you may think because of that, well, we just want as much as possible, don't we? That means that there's almost zero effort to pull the sail in. Well, in theory, yes, that's good. But in practice, it's not as straightforward as that. Do you want to know why? Well, I'm going to tell you why, whether you want to know or not. So the standard purchase system on most catamarans of the sort of more old school boats like the Hobie 14, 16, the Prindles are running a 6-to-1, which means we've got a triple block at the bottom like this, and then a triple block at the top like this. There we go, 6-to-1. And for a boat like that, that is pretty much the end of the story. That is the optimal main sheet system for that sort of boat. Now, the reason why you wouldn't want more purchase is, so this one is a 10-to-1. So we've got 5 at the top there and 5 at the bottom. And the reason we wouldn't just go for more purchase is because of the amount of rope. First reason, the amount of rope that you would have on the boat, because as you increase the purchase to pull the sail in the same amount, you're going to be using increasing amounts of rope. So on a 10-to-1 like this, I haven't done the maths. If anybody's on board from the science department, you can let us know if there is a very straightforward equation for this. But let's say with a 10-to-1, to pull the sail in the same amount as a 5-to-1, you'd probably use twice as much rope, which means twice as much rope on the trampoline. And it also means you can't alter the angle of the sail as quickly, because you have to pull so much more rope to get it in the same amount. So an example from a completely different type of sailing, but at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays, we have this boat called the Laser. Yeah, the Laser. Now, the Laser as standard has a kind of 3-to-1 purchase system on the main sheet. But when we're using it as a foiling laser, because we've got foiling kits for the lasers, we have to alter the angle of the sail so quickly that we actually take 2 of the purchases out. So it's basically a one, it's kind of like a 2-to-1 that we're left with, so that we can alter the angle of the sail more quickly. So for a Hobie 16 example, you're going to need to alter the angle of the sail much more quickly than you would do on a Tornado, because on the downwind points of sail, you're going to have on a Tornado, you're going to have the spinnaker up. You're going to be absolutely belting it with the mainsail pretty much just cranked in as tight as it will go. Whereas on a 16, on the downwind point of sail especially, you're going to have to play quite a lot of sheet, even with less purchase, to keep the mainsail in the sweet spot, which is why we don't use the big perch system on the smaller boats. So when it comes to the bigger boats, like the Formula 18, for example, another example, you could say, well, why do some people use an 8-to-1 and some use a 10-to-1? Some use a 12. It's basically how much sheet load you can handle. For me, if I'm going to an event, I've actually got 2 main sheets I'll take with me. And if the wind is going to be light the whole day, I'll use less purchase than if it's going to be a really windy one, just so that it's a bit easier to sheet in. Now, the other thing, there's some other things with having more purchase. One of them, light winds. If you've got more purchase, the main sheet isn't going to run out as easily. So once you're getting up to a 10-to-1 kind of purchase system, it is necessary to have a slightly thinner rope than on a 6. So don't know if, can you see that? Slightly thinner, because if you use the same diameter of main sheet on the 10-to-1 as you do on the 6-to-1, then it's not going to run out in the lighter winds. So you need that thinner rope. The other thing that comes into play as well is when you've got all this purchase, the rope has to turn through a whole 180 degrees like that. So the more times it has to do that, we're increasing the friction. And so when we get to a certain point, like 10-to-1, when we go up to a 12, although we do get more mechanical advantage, we also get a bit more resistance from the amount of times that the rope's doing that, which definitely means we need a thinner rope, which might mean, you know, the best choice, try to find where this joins, is to have a tapered rope. Now, a tapered rope, hope this isn't too fast for you, by the way. We're going pretty fast. We're hitting the floor running, or the ground running. A tapered rope means that the bit you hold in your hand is thicker, and then the bit that runs through the blocks is thinner. Yeah. So that means that the rope going round this 180 degrees isn't such an issue, because with the thinner rope, it bends much easier and we're not going to have that sort of resistance. And in fact, on this Allen Dynamic 60 main sheet set with the Robline machine tapered main sheet, even in light winds, it absolutely flies out when you release it, which is a bonus, because you want it to fly out when you release it. Yeah, so there is a definite sweet spot for how much purchase for different types of boat. For me, I would say standard, like your Hobie 14, 16 type boats, 6-to-1. For something like FX1, slightly less powerful mainsail than a Formula 18. So I would say the same for a Formula 16 for me. 8-to-1 is very good, because again, you don't have to work with as much rope as you do with a more powerful system. Whereas on the mighty Tornado or the F18, 10-to-1 is the sweet spot for those bad boys. Yeah. Anything else to report on the main sheet? No, I don't think so. So I am going to do a test, by the way, a semi-scientific test where I'm going to rig up main sheets with different amounts of purchase and see how many kilos of effort it takes to sheet in and how much rope it is relative to the other purchase systems. There we go. So I'm going to leave that there. If you've got any questions about purchase, then do let us know. All right. So let's enter into the live chat, and I'm going to steam straight to Egypt to say hello to Hussein, who's just hit me up with a super sticker. Oh yes, these super stickers are a great way of showing that you appreciate the amount, this level of information that is coming your way, and it's a great way of supporting Joyrider TV. But not only that, I'm actually doing a little test even as we speak. So I don't know if you noticed, but I've turned off all of the advertising for the live Q&A. So there won't be any adverts pop up during the video, and there shouldn't have been any at the start. And what I'm thinking as a concept is, if in each live Q&A I could get 10 super stickers or super chat or whatever it's called, it's just next to where you enter your chat thing. If I could get 10, then I will keep not having the advertising on the live Q&A, because for me, I do watch a fair bit of YouTube, and the thing that annoys me most, you know, I don't sign up to the YouTube Premium because I get my music from Spotify and don't want to have to pay another premium subscription kind of thing, you know what it. But the thing that annoys me the most is if I'm doing something where I've got dirty hands or wet hands, and then an advert pops up and you can't go and skip the ad because your hands aren't in a fit state. I find that frustrating, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that frustration. So that is why I thought it'd be really nice, especially for the Q&A, because it is a longer presentation than most. It'd be nice to have it without the adverts on, but you know, there is time that goes into this, so your support is greatly appreciated to keep that happening. But thanks again to Hussein for getting the ball rolling. All right. Okay, we've got channel member Jens on board. Another great way of supporting the channel. Become a channel member. Nice. Good evening. Main sheet customization, very important. Yeah, so the other thing to bear in mind with how easy or hard it is to sheet in, and I did make a video on this, I think it was about this time last year, was although it goes against what I've been saying with you don't want rope that's too thick because it won't go out, but thicker rope is easier to pull in. So sometimes it's not the power in your arms that is lacking, it's actually your grip strength on the thinner rope. It's, you know, it can be pretty brutal. So thicker rope can sort out your sheeting in issues. So if on the boat that you sail, if you find it really hard to sheet in, then if you can get hold, or if you've got a bit of rope the right length, which is a little bit thicker, try putting that into the main sheet and see if that solves the problem before chucking a load of cash at a new main sheet system. There we go. I'd just like to say thanks very much to Peter in Sweden for the super sticker. Thank you very much. The ball is definitely rolling. I'll go back into the live chat to see who is checking in. All right, so hitting pole position in stormy Ohio, we've got Mark and Janet. Loved the catamaran sailing mistakes you must avoid video. Hope you like the catchy title. Means you must avoid this, so you have to watch the video. Some of those look quite painful. Yes, some of those, I believe, did leave a bit of a mark. And there was a maneuver that I described as the Peter Pan, which I believe is the appropriate term for it. When you're sailing boat, if this is our trapeze artist, if the boat suddenly slows down, this is just his head, by the way, and then the natural trajectory for the sailor is to go flying forwards. And if they don't go all the way around the front, I think if they end up kind of dangling around here, then that is what I'm calling the Peter Pan. But maybe a full Peter Pan is to go all the way around. And it has been known, this is no word of a lie, it has been known for somebody to actually swing all the way around the boat to the other side. So what would happen to make that happen would be when they start swinging round, they get to about here, and then the boat heads up, which kind of sends them round to the leeward side, and then they climb onto the leeward side. It's almost like a small miracle. There we go. All right, we got us office hands. Dave is on board. Nice to have you with us, Dave, again. Very nice. Greetings from Peter, by the way, in sunny Sweden, and warm, no less. Yeah, a short story. I just lit the barbecue ready for later, and it started raining. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got Stephen on board. Graph and Water, UK. New Hobie 16s on their way. EPO 3s are out of stock till who knows when. So he's gone for the White Knights. The White Knight rudder blades were the industry standard Hobie Cat rudder blades for what must have been a good 15 years. They're good rudder blades. And they're not quite, not to dampen the mood, but they're not quite as strong as the EPOs. The EPOs are pretty much indestructible, but Hobie Cat were always very good at warranty replacements on the rudder blades, as long as it's within whatever their period of warranty is. Good to know, I think. All right, we got Barry Windy Miller on board. Morning, Barry. Good to have you with us. John Bishop is on board as well. I like to put my tongue out for a bit more purchase. Yeah, that is a very good technique, is the tongue just sticking out. The side of the mouth usually is the sweet spot for that, I would say. Nice to have you with you. Nice to have you with you, John. I hope you're doing well down there in sunny Cornwall. All right, Chip is. We've got some sale making royalty in the live chat. Chip is with us. Chip is everything's backwards. Chip is from Whirlwind Sales. Yes, Chip makes what I believe to be the most accurate aftermarket sales for most Hobies and any other catamarans. Chip used to be the head of he used to run the sale loft at Hobie Cat USA for quite a long time, which makes him, in my mind, makes him the most qualified person to build a set of sales for a catamaran, for a Hobie, especially if you don't want to get an original set from Hobie Cat. Of course, non-original sales for Hobie 16 and 14 aren't class legal to race with, but the Whirlwind sales for the Hobie 17 and the Hobie 20 are class legal. Might be some other classes as well which are class legal aftermarket sales, and that's why when thinking about new sales for my Hobie 16, I turned to Chip at Whirlwind Sales, and Chip made, again, we're kind of backwards, this set of sails, and Bad Boy 95 became Bad Boy 95. There we go. Right. Super sticker from Office Hands Dave. Thank you very much, Dave. The ball is definitely rolling. That's 3 out of 10. All right, we're doing well. Okay, great job. If you don't like adverts, let's keep this ball rolling, and then adverts will be a thing of the past. Okay, where was I up to? All right, yeah. Dave says more sheaves or more purchase is what I was calling it. Same thing. Equals more slack to manage whilst close hauled. Yeah, so the more purchase you have, the more likely it is you're going to have loads of rope in the water to look after. So that is a reason not to just bang on a load of extra purchase. When I sailed in the Archipelago raid last year, I was fortunate enough to be sailing with the 12-to-1 Harken ceramic main sheet system. Now that is the best of both worlds. It's 12-to-1. It's very small, but with a custom tapered main sheet, the rope runs through that so well, and it makes it so easy to sheet in and out. It really is the best that you can get. But even though it's the best you can get for a Hobie 16 or 14 is the Harken 6-to-1. And if you are shopping for main sheet blocks and you do get the choice to get this version for the bottom block, in my opinion, this is the best one that there's ever been. It's not the one that's currently supplied with the boats, but this one is really good because the ratchet, oh, do you hear that up to the microphone? That is nice. The ratchet is exactly has the right level of chew to it, which means it grips the rope exactly the right amount. And the ratchet is switchable on this because let's face it, it's either windy enough or it's not. So switching the ratchet on and off. So if it's light wind, switch the ratchet off. And then once there's enough wind to start just easing the hull up, then just switch the ratchet on. You can even do that while you tack. And with a bit of practice, you can do that while you tack without actually it costing you any time. There you go. That is what I think. And then I really like this rope as well. This, I believe, is called a Marlowe Z taper, even though I didn't taper it. But I like the way that the outer provides grip. That is what I like with that bit of rope. All right. Johnny Easy is with us. Johnny Easy says, I'm racing the 16 and like 5-to-1. There we go. Yeah. So this is another trick that you can pull out of the bag. In lighter wind, you can just take the rope out off one of the sheaves, tie it off at the other end, and there you are. You've just reduced the amount of purchase. And then so that you don't have too much rope, a trick that I like to do, if I can call it a trick, is where you've got your main sheet tied off on the back beam at that fair lead, rather than putting the end of the main sheet there, pull through as much main sheet as you don't think you need, or as you definitely don't need, tie a figure of 8 at the end of that. So then maybe you've got, if we let it trail out the back of the boat, maybe we've got a couple of meters of end of the main sheet out the back. It's reducing the amount of main sheet that's going to end up on the trampoline. And then rather than having it trail off the back, it's not very nice. Take it forwards underneath the trampoline, tie it off around the dolphin striker, and there you go. You've just shortened your main sheet without having to cut it. That's very good trick, I believe. All right, we got Kevin on board. Greetings from Illinois. Please, can you talk about the FX1? There's one for sale around here compared to a 16. Yeah, it's a different animal to the 16. So the FX1 would be described as a performance single-hander with trapeze, dagger boards, and spinnaker. The factory weight, or whatever you call the weight, the weight of an FX1 is about the same as a Hobie 16. So it's about the same amount of weight to manage on the beach, which with single-handed boats is always a factor that you need to consider how it's going to be to get it out of the water. It is definitely much more maneuverable than a 16. It's got flat bottomed hulls. So if I was to put this hull like that, you'd say you've put your Dart 18 upside down, but no, that is the modern let's call it wave piercing shape of hull, which is kind of like what you get on an FX1. And with the boats with the flat bottom, because you don't have any hull actually in the water, which would give you resistance, it means it tacks as easily as a monohull, really. The FX1, you could get away with the worst tacking technique ever, and you would still not fail your tacks because it's got this flat bottom, which just allows it to spin. We've also got on there, if I got something that we could surely, oh yeah, we've also got on there dagger boards, so it just pivots on the dagger boards, makes it very easy to maneuver. Power wise, the mainsail is about the same size as on a 16, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's taller, which what we'd call higher aspect, which is because it's designed for the race course. So it's designed for sailing upwind, high aspect mainsail, downwind, because we've got a spinnaker as well. If you don't use the spinnaker downwind, then it's super easy to sail downwind. So the main negative point of the FX1 would be that it is more fragile than a Hobie 16. The 16 is one of the most durable boats ever to be built from fiberglass, whereas the FX1 is not. It's stronger than most modern, well, probably about the same as most modern catamarans that come out, like all the F18s. But you've also got the dagger boards to contend with, which means you have got more to do. It's pretty good explanation, I think. Now, the added bonus with the FX1 is, yes, you can add a jib, second trapeze line, and then it's a very fun double-handed boat, but only for lightweights. You would want to double-hand it with no more, I'm going to do the conversion here, than 125 kilos, which is 275 pounds. So if you're thinking of sailing it with more than that regularly, then you'd be much better off with even a Hobie 16 carries weight better than that. So there you go, Kevin. Hope that is the answer you were looking for. But if it's a good price, FX1s you can pick up for a very good price for the amount of boat that you get. I think it is an absolutely brilliant boat for single-handed sailing or for double-handed sailing with a lightweight crew. But for double-handed, in a strong wind, it is more difficult and twitchy to sail than an F18 because it's lighter and it's closer to the water. Where the back beam is quite low down, which means if there's waves, when you're charging along, the waves hit the back beam, forcing the bow down. And it's just a bit uncomfortable sometimes. So you've got to lift the hull a bit to stop that from happening. There we go. All right. So Jens says, I have 10-1 main sheet with tapered sail for tiger sailing. Very good investment. Yeah, Jens, I think Jens has got the Rob line as well. Same that I have here, but Jens is the next one up, which, to be honest, I'd have preferred that. This for me is a little bit on the thin side. Okay, Barry says 11 to 30 is 11:30 is perfect tea and toast time on my last pot of pre-tariff Marmite. Okay, a little bit of current affairs and politics sneaking in. Peter says, I've got the Malcheski carbon tillers and the lockdown fix kit for the Tornado. Absolutely brilliant. The tiller extensions, we've talked about that quite a lot in the past, but the lockdown kit, haven't talked so much about that, but Malcheski Composites make these carbon fiber lockdown kits for Tornado rudder systems, and it really is like if you wanted to give your boat that upgrade that just makes it that bit more special, then it is definitely worth it. Hoping to get started on the refurbishment this weekend. Wish me luck. I will need it. No, I think you'll be fine, Peter. Just is the thing that requires luck is if any of the bolts have like seized up over the years. I think that's the only bit. Okay, Stephen says Hobie Cat Channel Island on Jersey have been super in getting the new rudders together. Big shout out to, was it Gordon Burgess? He used to be the dealer from Jersey. Very nice guy. And you wouldn't believe it if you didn't know, but Jersey in the Channel Islands, which are basically, I'm going to say halfway between England and France, but part of England, part of United Kingdom, have got one of the a more active Hobie Cat sailing scene than England has. Can you believe that? Yeah, and it's all down to Gordon and the way that he supports the sailors, gets the young sailors into it. He does such a great job. Big tip of the hat to Gordon. All EPO 3s are currently reserved for new out-of-the-box Hobies. Could be months before EPO 3s are back on the shelves. I feel very lucky to have some. All right. So Leland Lee is on board from Clearwater, Florida. Little bit off the late on the start line for Leland Lee there. He's usually in the front row. Nice to have you with us as always. USA for the win is back after quite an extended absence. Joy, we miss you, buddy. Been missing you too, man. Thanks for coming back. All right, Chip says he's making Hobie wave sails as well, and which are class legal in the Formula Wave class in the USA. And I'm actually going to be competing in the Formula Wave class with a custom Whirlwind sail on the wave. Corpus Christi, start of November. It's the Hobie Alta Cup. Probably one of the biggest events on the calendar in the USA every year. If you can get hold of a Hobie Wave, or if you've got one, you have got to go to that event if you're in the USA. I think if you're in a different hemisphere, let's say, perhaps you don't have to. But I'm going to be there. So even if you're not sailing, come down, say hello. Start of November, Corpus Christi, Texas. And we're hoping to get over 150 Hobie waves on the start line. Yeah, that is good. And having watched the level of aggression on the start line from Joe's video, which was one in the what went wrong video, which was out yesterday, I am scared. I'm definitely scared. All right. Matthew is on board from Baltimore, USA. Matthew has got a very tasteful 16 on the go now. The upgrade. All right, we've got Welton Oliveira. Unfortunately, my only language that I can respond to pretty much is English, maybe Greek at a push. All right, we've got James on board, but thanks for tuning in. We've got James on board. Hello, James. Okay, so next preloaded question, I think. All right, so all right, this one comes from Daniel, who says, I've always been curious, when on a beam reach, are we talking about the true wind or the apparent wind to make it a beam reach? If it's the apparent wind, then it feels like it's still on the bow. Yeah, so because there is so much ambiguity on points of sail and what you would actually call them in catamaran sailing, especially like in a some sort of classic sailing monohull, it's a lot more straightforward what point of sail you're on, because the apparent wind, the combination of the true wind and the induced wind, induced wind that we create by going forwards, which creates the apparent wind. There's our quick apparent wind explanation. On a slow moving monohull, that's not such an issue, but on a fast moving catamaran, it makes it slightly more different when we're trying to define what point of sail we're on. Upwind, straightforward. Downwind, pretty straightforward, but then this kind of beam reach, close reach area, less straightforward. So the only thing that I go off when describing my point of sail is it is relative to the true wind direction. One good way, if you're if there's a reasonable amount of breeze, to know if you're not sailing past a load of flags, let's say, then a good way of knowing what your true wind direction is just to see the direction that the chop is coming at. Or if there's no tide and there's boats on a mooring or an anchor, they'll point into the wind. So that is how I would gauge what we're calling a beam reach. There we go. All right, we've got Digger 76 on board. Hello, Digger 76. Great to have you with us. What do you think about coarse and fine adjustments? We're talking main sheet, I believe. I have that on my boat, 4-to-1 coarse, and on the fixed end, another 4-to-1, giving me 16-to-1. Close to the wind, 4-to-1 at the buoy. Yeah, because that sort of system is well, it's not really used on the small catamarans at all, as far as I know, except perhaps ones where someone's been in the shed inventing, but much more like in keelboat or yachting or bigger boats. Basically, this coarse and fine adjustment system gets used, and it works absolutely brilliantly. You know, to have a 4-to-1, that means that as long as there's not too much load, to get the sail in or out will be extremely quick. And then to use your fine adjustment, your 16, to crank it in the rest of the way, and to do that fine trimming, brilliant. But I think for the small catamarans, it would mean too much gear. I think too much gear on board, so not really applicable in my opinion until we're getting up to sort of keelboat size. So possibly like a boat like a DM 24, which is the 24-foot performance trimaran. Yes, but on a Tornado, I would stick to the standard. Nice one. All right. James says, where else in the world, this is going well, can you get such a clear dissertation on beach cat purchase systems? Great stuff, Joe. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad that this is hitting the spot, the purchase system chat that we have got going on. Love a bit of purchase systems. Can't wait to get it in my hand again, out on the water. It's getting close. By the way, the week after next, what's the date? It's the 4th. Yeah, the week after next, which would be the week starting on the 14th of April. I will be hanging out in Scheveningen, which is part of The Hague, Den Haag, in Holland, the Netherlands, incidentally. So if you see someone talking loudly who looks like me, there's a strong chance it will be me. So do come and say hello. There you are. All right. Next question preloaded. This one comes from Joe at Hilton Head. The other event where I'm going to be hitting in the USA end of October. So same thing applies. If you can, then do. You know, if it's not too far to go, if you've got time, then let's make that event the biggest event for double-handed boats of the year. Single-handers are welcome, of course. Joe says, let's talk travelers. Yeah, so this was in response to one of my just a regular kind of joyriding video where I'm hitting most of the points of sale and ending up with a bit of a speed run. Joe says, you seem to have the traveler, the mainsail traveler, in exactly the perfect position to work the main sheet and control the boat perfectly. Exactly how did you get the main traveler in the sweet spot? Yeah, I'd say there, you know, the actual range that we've got for the traveler when sailing, is about that. It's not very far. So there's only one kind of visual reference on the boat that we can use. You've either got, all right, in the middle, all the way in, all the way out, or we've got the toe strap. Those are our reference points. So I might have it just inside the toe strap. So it's pretty standard where I would put it for the amount of wind, but it's kind of like knowing which gear to put your car in to go up a different hill or for driving at a different speed. You just, having done it quite often, you do get used to knowing where it is. And the thing is, once you're double trapezing and you're giving it the hammer, it doesn't mean that the traveler has to stay where it is. If you don't like how it is, like if you're constantly having to ease main sheet because you've got too much power, then you can let the traveler off a bit more. And a lot of the time, generally, it's a good idea if the crew isn't playing the main sheet, but they have a hand on the traveler. So you could get the crew to ease the traveler off if it's if you've got too much power. So a lot of the time, unless it's really, really, really windy, I would start off with the traveler in a little bit more than I think, because it's a whole lot easier to let it out, especially for the crew. Whereas to put it back in, if there's a lot of load on, what I do a lot of the time is the crew will have the traveler rope, I'll have the main sheet, and to actually bring the traveler up towards the middle, I'll assist by pulling the main sheet at the same time, which is pulling the whole thing up towards the middle as well. So we'll do a little countdown. Okay, let's pull the traveler in a bit. Are you ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, pull it in a bit. And then it's much easier for the crew because sometimes the crew, there is quite a lot of load there, especially in the stronger wind. But that is pretty much how I'm getting the traveler into that sweet spot by experience, but then by trimming it a bit while I'm out. And like, if I've gone back into the boat for any reason, I might just adjust the traveler at that time. And then the other thing, as well as wind strength, there is the weight of the crew on the boat. So if you're sailing with a really lightweight crew, you'd have the traveler further out than you would do if you were sailing with a really heavy crew, because with a heavy crew you can hold more power, so it kind of works like that as well. Now Joe continues, do you you seem to have the jib traveler out a lot of the time? Yes, I do. Because what we never want to have is the jib traveler as a percentage of its range. Yeah, do we understand what I mean by that? As a percentage of its range that it can travel, we never want to have it closer in than the main traveler. And for sailing in Vasiliki Bay in the stronger wind, it's either on or it's off. So when it's on, having the jib traveler all the way out means that it's not going to be so main traveler halfway out, but rather than having the jib traveler halfway out, we put it all the way out, so then it's done. We're just trying to do it the easy way, because the jib always needs to be out a bit more than the main, like this, so that we have this nice airflow over the sails. If the jib is ever in more than the main, so if the traveler was halfway and we decided to let the main traveler out more, then what we'd get is the air coming off the jib, hitting the back of the mainsail, and then we're getting this turbulent airflow. It might even kind of backwind the mast and send the mast rotating the wrong way, and it's not a good time. So that is why I'm sailing with the jib traveler out a lot of the time. Now, would I do that sailing upwind? If I wasn't racing, then yes, I probably would, for the same reason, if it was really windy. But if I was racing, I'd be sailing much closer to the wind. And as long as I didn't have to travel the main traveler out, I would have the jib traveler into the middle. And the one thing we want to do before we start traveling out, if we're really looking for optimal performance, is we just want to loosen the rig tension a bit before we start traveling out, because that allows the whole rig to kind of breathe. If you've got too much rig tension on, this is Hobie 16, too much rig tension, it means when you get a gust of wind, it doesn't feel like the boat wants to go faster. It just feels like it wants to fly a hull and almost stop. And so just easing off a little bit of rig tension to get it in the sweet spot makes such a big difference to your boat speed. So it does need some experimentation there. There we go. Joe finishes off by saying, we are all very much looking forward to the 2-day Joyrider TV race clinic at Hilton Head before the regatta in October. Yes, that's right. If you are on the fence about whether you can make it to Hilton Head, USA, then there's a race clinic beforehand. So if you've never raced before, I will get you ready for the race course before the event. There we go. Okay. Peter says, we have a couple who double hand on the FX1 in Sweden. Very nice. With the optional, all right, not shirt racks, with the optional racks. Yeah, the FX1 has these racks that it's not like the picnic bench wings. It's just a little bit wider for trapezing off. Yeah, very nice. That's a lot of fun. Love it. All right. So that is as far as I'm going today. Oh, Peter says, regarding the jib, we met the legend that is Goran Marstrom last summer. Nice. The legend, the man behind the most successful tornadoes ever to be built. All right. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So we've hit 3 super stickers, not the required 10. Now, what does that mean for having adverts in the live stream next week? Well, we'll see if anything else appears with everybody who's watching this later on. If you're watching this later on and you want this to continue advert free, then you know what to do. Oh, here we go. Goran Marstrom reckons the jib slows the boat down, which is why the M20, which was one of the most recent catamarans that he designed, is just mainsail and spinnaker. There we go. All right. Thanks for coming. And as always, I'll see you soon with some more. And good luck to you.